In less than an hour, 12 News will hold a Spanish-language town hall specifically for Latino voters.
In our latest installment of The Deciders on Maricopa County voters who will make a difference in November, 12 News journalist Bram Resnick takes a closer look at a major shift in the Latino vote.
My family's divided, a house is divided in two.
There's a division and there's a confusion right now.
Latinos don't necessarily vote Democrat anymore. That's not a guarantee.
And that's a serious challenge for Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris. Among Latino voters nationwide, Harris leads Republican nominee Donald Trump by 54% to 40%. That's according to a national NBC News Telemundo CNBC poll. But Harris's 14-point advantage with Latino voters is the smallest for a Democratic nominee in the last 4 presidential cycles, down from 44% in 2012.
There's been that erosion, if you will, of loyalty towards, maybe your parents' party or preference.
Joseph Garcia leads nonpartisan registration drives for Latino voters. A large number, he says, are registering as independents.
After 1 or 2 generations that have been here in the United States, they take on more of a, I'm not an immigrant. I'm not one of those. And it's part of the assimilation process.
Diana Apresa is frustrated by that assimilation.
I feel like a lot of times they don't remember what the bigger issues are.
For Apresa, a Kamala Harris supporter, immigration is a top issue.
At the federal level, I want more responsibility. I feel like right now it's being tossed around with giving the power, to local authorities.
Immigration is also a top issue for business owner David Carrizosa.
So far, it's just something that they just check the box and move on.
But he hasn't decided between Harris or Trump.
I understand the border must be secure. I understand that. I understand policies has to follow. Completely understand that. But I also believe immigration reform that benefits the country in a positive way.
Human resources professional Selena Graves knows who she's voting for.
For me, I'm all J.D. Vance.
Really?
Yes, that's who I'm for.
That's interesting. Not Donald Trump.
I'm J.D. Vance.
Graves says Vance's values mesh with her Bible Belt upbringing.
And I have to say, economically, for some people, we see it better with the Republican in office.
Among Latino voters in the NBC poll, Trump had an edge on dealing with the economy and inflation.
I feel it when I go to the supermarket. I feel it when I go refuel my car. It just seems like the economy is deteriorating.
Public school teacher Luis Zazueta is a child of immigrants and supports a path to citizenship, while opposing Trump's plan for mass deportations. And yet...
So if you had to vote today, who would you cast your vote for, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
Right now, I'm leaning for Donald Trump for the most pressing concern of the economy.
In Phoenix, Bram Resnick, 12 News.
Bram, thanks. Monica Sanschafer is the director of Mi Familia Vota, a grassroots Latino civic organization that mobilizes Latino communities across the country to get out and vote and shape policy. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Once upon a time, the Latin vote was almost a given for Democrats. But here, and probably across the country based on numbers, we see that changing. What do you think is going on?
One of the interesting things is that I started doing this work back in the late 2000s, and even in 2010, what I was hearing from folks is that we don't invest in the Latino community because we can't count on their vote. So this has been a very common sentiment for actually a long time. But what we discovered is that Latinos in Arizona were united by SB 1070, were united against SB 1070, and a lot of that unity has held. And that Latinos in Arizona are going to vote on the economy, and they're going to take a look at who has the better plan. We think that the economy, affordable housing, health care, all of these issues, fair and just and efficient immigration policies, as well as addressing the climate crisis, those are issues that are going to turn voters out. And we think that they're going to choose electeds who are have policies and are trying to plan for our future instead of looking backwards.
When you're talking about the economy and you're talking about pocketbook issues, those resonate with the Latino community. How do you sell them on Kamala Harris if she is not resonating as much as former President Trump?
Our mission is not particularly to sell folks on Kamala Harris. Our mission is to ensure that Latino, BIPOC, and youth voters have all of the information they need to go to the ballot box and vote for their values. And what we know is that there is a stark difference between policies and approaches to the values and the issues that the Latino community cares about. And as we continue to communicate with them, we trust them to make an informed decision at the ballot box. I would say that Mi Familia Vota has stayed true to values that tend to be consistent among the Latino and BIPOC community and their allies, which is for a strong economy that works for everybody, for fair and just and efficient, humane immigration policies, all of those kinds of things. And, you know, we don't design who the candidates are. And what we're seeing is that the candidates who speak to the values the most of our communities that we represent, the communities that we work with, and the communities we turn out often do align more with Democrats. But that has to do with who is prioritizing Latino voters, who is speaking to the issues that Latino voters care about. And the reality is that the Latino community tends to be the least invested in from all up and down the spectrum, candidates, parties, everything. And then people wonder why they don't turn out. That's why we're working so hard to knock on 1 million doors, because we think that when you talk to Latino voters, they will turn out and they will vote. I think what we are seeing in this election that is true of the Latino community is true of a lot of other voting communities, to be honest, which is that there are generational divides in the values that folks hold dear, right? And whether they're sort of looking to the past or looking to the future. And I think we're seeing that play out in a lot of our community. And what we really need are representatives and candidates and electeds that can speak to those issues articulately and convincingly. And that's how you get the Latino vote.
Women's reproductive rights, huge issue nationally. Mm-hmm. In the Latino community, because of the number of Catholics you have, mm-hmm. Is that an issue that doesn't resonate as much, perhaps?
You know what's so interesting is I think that is definitely a preconceived misconception. What we are actually finding when we knock on the doors, and we've knocked over 100,000 doors, when we talk to people, we're actually getting a 78% support rate, specifically for yes on 139. What we are finding is that the most compelling approach to reproductive freedom, to abortion rights, is keep the government out of these decisions. These should be private, personal, medical decisions, not government-based.
Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will both be taking part in town halls next week, targeting undecided Hispanic voters.
Tonight, 12 News is focused on the issues that affect our Latino community. Brenda Lipinski is live near 7th Street and Baseline at the C.O. Greenfield Academy tonight. Brenda?
Yes, well, we're really excited to have a phenomenal number of panelists today. And joining me right now is Patricia Duarte, and she's the Executive Vice President of Home Ownership Initiatives at Chicanos por la Causa. And we know, Patricia, that home ownership is a really big deal when it comes to our Latino community. Tell me what are some of the issues that are impacting our community as we head into this November election?
Well, thank you for having me here today. Homeownership is live in America, and Latinos are going to be the future in homeownership. Most of the purchases will be by Latinos in the next 20 years. So this is very important for us to be more involved and engaged in understanding how are we going to get there. Homeownership among Latinos and Hispanics has been growing, but not enough. We're still much lower when compared to our Anglo family and friends. So we want to make sure that we understand what are some of the barriers and where are the solutions so we can get there quickly.
And so what are some of the things nationally or on the federal level that can be done to help Latinos obtain home ownership?
You know, it's really complicated. We didn't get here by mistake. Systemically, there's a lot of institutions that had practices in the past that didn't help us obtain homeownership. So those are some of the things that we need to undo, make it easier. Latinos earn lower wages, not by mistake. So we need to invest in policies that will get more workforce at the appropriate wages so that they can buy. Or there's down payment and closing cost assistance that have proven time and time over that they're effective. So invest more in very strategic programs that will help bridge that financial gap.
Well, it looks like there's a lot of issues to look into this, and I look forward to hearing more of what you have to say throughout this our panel that's starting at 7 o'clock today. We hope you'll be able to join us. Back to you.
All right, Brenda, thank you so much. And as we've been mentioning, we know how important the Hispanic vote is here in Arizona. In fact, this year, 1 out of every 4 voters will be Hispanic.
But as 12 News journalist William Pitts found out, the campaigns aren't reaching out to them.
Hispanic voters are a huge voting bloc, bigger than ever going into the November election. According to data from the Latino Data Hub, there was only a slight growth in Hispanic voters from 2000 to 2010. But this year, 1 in 4 voters is expected to be Hispanic. But campaigns aren't reaching out to them.
Sometimes we are at a loss for words in trying to figure out why is it that outreach to Latino voters continue to be so low.
And it is low. According to a Unidos US survey, 50% of Hispanic voters say they've never been contacted about voting for anything, either a proposition or a candidate. Only 29% say they've been contacted by Democrats, and 14% say they've been contacted by Republicans, which means there's a massive untapped voter bloc because 61% of people surveyed said they will definitely vote in November. 17% say they'll likely vote. Added up, that's 78% of people who will vote, and no one's tried to convince half of them of who to vote for. When it comes to issues, the biggest issues for Hispanic voters are about money. The top 3, inflation, jobs, and affordable housing. When asked what that meant to them, Hispanic voters said what most people say. The cost of living is too high. The cost of buying and renting a place to live is too high. Gas prices are too high, and they're unable to save money. After the economy, border security is the next biggest issue. And for Hispanic voters, that means a couple of things. They told pollsters elected officials should focus on a path to citizenship for undocumented people brought to the U.S. as kids. Then, cracking down on human smuggling and trafficking. Unidos says that also means fentanyl smuggling. Then, a path to citizenship for undocumented people who've been here a long time, and protecting those people from deportation. Interestingly, abortion comes in 6th on the list of issues. Unidos asked this question: regardless of your personal opinion on abortion, do you think it's wrong to take it away from others? Adding up people who strongly agree and somewhat agree, 68% of Arizona Hispanic voters agree, and a majority of both men and women. But Unidos says the attitude they found most prevalent is pretty common in most places.
Want this hatred to be over, right? And we see this from the November poll that we did last year, that people wanted bipartisan work.
William Pitts, 12 News.